Good afternoon, Jason Nadeau here again, Fidelity National Financial. Welcome back to the Digital Hub. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about Ron. We've seen, as you've heard in one of my other video casts here, that we've seen a significant uptick in Ron transactions during the COVID pandemic, especially during the lockdown months of April and May and June. We learned a lot. We did a lot of transactions. We learned a lot about what works really well with Ron and what doesn't. And I thought I would take 2-3 minutes here quickly to share with you some of the things that we've discovered. First of all, let's talk about the good parts of it. Well, everybody knows it's remote. Everybody gets to work from home. We've seen a lot more webcams purchased online. A lot more people are working from home. A lot more people do have access to do exactly what we're doing here than they've done in the past. So that's good. Now, let's think about this for a second. I love this picture. This is a great picture here. This shows some people on a webcam, and this is exactly like what it looks like in a Ron transaction. Those of you that have ever done a Ron transaction, you know that the consumers dress up. They look great just like this. They're always well lit. They've got a nice high-speed internet access and a very new computer. Is that really the way it works? Well, we figured out it looks a little more like this. We're looking a little more like the bad and the ugly here. We're talking about challenges with customers on their location, their high-speed access, and a number of things. Let's dive into them a little bit in more detail. So what exactly are some of the main challenges that we have seen that take Ron transactions from being this fantastic online experience that we're hoping for and make it not exactly perfect? Well, the single biggest challenge we're running into is pretty simple. It's the customer getting into the closing room, getting into that remote online notary session. ID verification is a big challenge. It's very, very important. Don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that we lower our standards in any way. But what we are seeing is that customers are struggling. Ron today in most states require two things. One, you have a driver's license or other form of government ID that you either hold up to the camera, front and back, or we use a camera on your phone to take a picture of it. And then the second thing that they do is they use knowledge-based authentication. So questions like you see here, where they ask you things about what kind of car have you owned, which address did you live at, where did you bank, or did you have a credit card, those types of questions. These questions are largely based upon your credit history. The problem with those questions is, in a number of instances, they are becoming more and more difficult to answer. As the credit companies who provide these services are trying to avoid information that hackers are able to find on the internet, they have to make the questions more difficult. As the questions get more difficult, they become harder for even us who know the answers to answer. And the failure rate for knowledge-based authentication is quite high. Also, you have to have an established credit history. Young first-time home buyers may not have enough credit history to do a good knowledge-based authentication, or you might run into scenarios where you've got people that are foreign nationals who don't have it. The second is the ID itself. IDs that are well-worn, well-used, are worn down, the picture's not great, the camera's not good, we can have challenges, and we've seen challenges getting a good ID. The other places we run into challenges are the connection. This is a video transaction. It does require a lot of bandwidth. That video transaction needs to be uninterrupted in order to be able to assume that you have a fully intact and keep the integrity of that video. As a result, customers who are trying to do it from their phone are having trouble reading documents, as you can see on the screen there. They may be driving around, which we've had instances, and signals are cutting in and out, or they may be like I am, working from their home, reviewing their documents while they have two teenagers at the house, both of which are streaming Netflix and playing Xbox at the same time and hogging up all the bandwidth. So we've seen some of those challenges for sure, and you need to be prepared for them, and you need to understand that this is convenience for the customer, but yet there are still a number of hurdles that you have to jump through to do it. Hold my beer, I'm headed to my closing. One thing that we did learn through the pandemic and doing closings through the pandemic, and I'm sure all of you did also, is that while Ron was a great solution, we weren't all prepared for it. And as a result of not being prepared for it, we worked on other solutions. And then the other thing that we learned is we learned that we are ultimately going to have to leave our home several times. We have very important staples that we have to acquire that require us leaving our home. Important staples like wine, beer, other forms of alcohol, as well as food and prescriptions and medical things that are also important. So what did we find? We found out that when people went out to do that, they found that there are safe ways. Wearing a mask, social distancing, going at off hours, they discovered that they can venture out and do those activities safely, which means they also can venture out and close the most important or largest financial transaction of their life safely. Now, that may be a change in the way we do it. We may be doing it on the front step. We may be doing it on the hood of the car. We may be doing it in a closing room that we sanitize after every closing. But what we did learn is customers went from being panicked and not wanting to come to any closings to understanding that they could come to a closing if there were safeguards in place. So what that has done is that has suppressed a little bit the demand for Ron, but I do think that the increases in digital expectation from our customers are going to show an uptick here in the future. Thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me and hear a little bit about what we've been learning. Thanks.